earth rejoice. It's Christmas time. It's Christmas time. So lift up your voice and sing out His praise. It's Christmas. Oh, it's the King rejoicing today. It's Christmas. Make a joyful sound. It's Christmas. Let His praise resound. It's Christmas. So lift up your voice and sing out His praise. It's Christmas. Oh, it's the King rejoicing today. It's Christmas. Make a joyful sound. It's Christmas. Let His praise resound. It's Christmas. So lift up your voice and sing out His praise. It's Christmas. Oh, it's the King rejoicing today. It's Christmas. Make a joyful sound. It's Christmas. Let His praise resound. It's Christmas. Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you're having a great holiday season. And I'm glad you're here with us today as we are kind of ushering in the Christmas season. And we've got all kinds of friends up here to have fun. And so, look at, there's your mom. Okay. So, that's how it goes. So, kids like it up here. So, I'm glad they're here. So, hey, today as we are going to be kicking off the Christmas season, and we're continuing our series called The Coming King. And so we have, I'm filling in for Aaron today. He has a little weekend off, so glad to be up here with you. And so we wanted to just take some time to celebrate Christmas season, to turn our hearts and our focus towards God. We know this is a busy time. I was at the same Christmas tree all week, crazy week for our family, and so you can kind of come into church sometimes all blurred. And so this is just a chance for us to kind of just tone down all the noise in life, especially in this holiday season, and just to bring our focus and attention to God. So why don't you stand with us as we can continue to sing and to worship Him and to turn our hearts and focus towards Him. God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day. Today, as we continue our series called Becoming King, we're just asking God to be the King in our hearts, to be the King over all the things we're facing. So let's just continue to turn our hearts and focus.
Let the king of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the king of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he is my song. You are good. Let the king of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the king of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. Let the king of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the king of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. 'Cause you are good, you're good.
greater ways today. Maybe through the struggle this week, maybe through some bad circumstances. Let us not let that dictate our life, control our life. May we rest in your promises. May we understand your goodness continues throughout all generations. May we not let the circumstances define our life, but may we just see your goodness, remember your promises. We ask you to remind us of those today. Speak to our hearts. Pray all this, Lord, in your name. Amen. You guys can grab a seat. Check out this video about our Hope Christmas Project and our connection with River Church in Vegas.
Hey, Journey, it's Vince from River Church in Las Vegas. I want to thank you for all the ways you've partnered with us over the years. We love you guys. So grateful for you. Thank you for making us a part of this year's Christmas offering. You're going to help us to do outreach events for our community. We do things called Love Vegas, where we send out people. We serve in all kinds of ways. Then we do some events at our church where we have people come. And so you're going to help us to serve our city. You're going to help people in our city come to our church and come to know Jesus. And that's awesome. And it's especially helpful right now. Honestly, things are tight around here, I think probably everywhere, but we were shut down for 49 weeks because of COVID. A lot of people moved away from Las Vegas from our church. Our rent was increased $2,500 a month this year. And so we really need the help. And we are so appreciative that you guys are willing to do this for us. Thank you. You mean so much to us. And you are making a difference here in Las Vegas.
Well, hey, good morning and welcome again. I'm Matt and I'm one of the pastors at the Journey, and I'm glad you guys are with us today. And I'm glad to be up here with you. I'm filming for here today. And you just saw Vince share a little bit. Every year at Christmas, we do this thing called the Hope Christmas Project. It's a chance to give the gift of hope at Christmas and do something meaningful. So we do this every year, and we've been sharing a little bit about it as we've been going throughout this week. And it's actually bigger and better this year with kind of the Because campaign that we've been talking about over the last couple months. And so if you missed any of that, and you go to our website, there's all kinds of details. There's some brochures available around the Next Step Center team. I want to check that out. But as far as the Hope Christmas Project goes, we're going to hear about this leading up to the end of the year. You can always give a gift to give the gift of hope. And so you heard Vince sharing. This is a chance for us to make a difference in Vegas. Maybe you've never been to Vegas. Maybe you'll never be there. We can still make a difference there. So Vince is the founder of River Church, and he's supporting them ever since they launched. And so you heard him share today. We're also looking to make a difference in Peru. We have our Compassion Project that we sponsor down there, and there's kids that we support and help them get out of generational poverty, get education, get medical supplies, get support for them and their families. And so this year, as part of our Hope Christmas Project, we're helping unsponsored kids get into the program because Peru is one of the hardest hit places with COVID, and so the kids are dispersed with new kids and all kinds of stuff like that. And we're also looking to sponsor a Haitian pastor. There's a lot of people from Haiti who flee Haiti because it's a lot of gang issues, there's government issues, it's the most impoverished country in the world, and so they flee to the Dominican Republic, and then they're treated kind of second-class citizens there. We have a Haitian pastor who's sponsoring in the Dominican Republic to make a difference there. Again, something you might not ever think you could do, but we can actually bring hope to Peru, Haiti, and Vegas, and so much more. And so it was actually considered every year that we do this whole Christmas project, so we can give the gift of hope. You can find all the details for that on our website, and you see there's giving links on the screen behind me, and if you want to give in the boxes today, you can do that, or online, and that's a great opportunity. So thank you so much for your generosity, whether it's with the Hope Christmas Project or your regular giving. And so if you're a guest though around here, if you're kind of new, this is your first week, maybe you've been a few times, just don't worry about any of the giving parts. You can still give if you want, be part of that to bring hope, but we want to just encourage you to take the card out and see in front of you and fill that out and bring it to the Next Step Center as a way to say thanks. We have a free gift we'd like to give you, to say thanks for being here, and so we're glad you're here. Also want to know about a few things happening this month. We're in the Christmas season, and so we have a lot of things going on. There's Journey Teens for middle school, high schoolers. They're doing a special party, white elephant gift type party thing next Sunday. There's a network Christmas event coming up. There's also Christmas services. I really want to draw your attention to that, though. Well, one part of the Because series we've been in the last couple of months, we talked about we want to be everyday inviters. We want to be hope givers. So we talk about the Hope Christmas Project. We also want to be everyday inviters. And we've been asking you to think about who do you know that you could invite that could maybe need hope to find Jesus. And so we've been asking you to do that. And Christmas is a great opportunity to invite someone. Because people tend to be more open at Christmas. And services. So we have two special Christmas events this year. One is 2 weeks from today, we're having a special family-focused service, kids in the service. It's going to be a kids celebration Sunday, and so it's going to be fun for all ages. This is a great opportunity to invite someone to come. So we have regular services at 9:30 and 11, but a special Christmas kids celebration for families and people of all ages. So, and then on Christmas Eve and Christmas Eve, we have our own Christmas services. And so those will be on Christmas Eve. It will be at 7, Christmas Eve at 3 and 5. And what really what I want you to do is to think about like, who could you invite this year to come with you. There's invite cards, and I would encourage you to grab one of those, pass it on, get all the details for those events, for the other things we talk about. All that is on the website. You can just go to the blog. All the December stuff, where you look on the events page, find all the details for all of those things. So I'm glad you're here, though, as we are continuing our Christmas series today. And we did a little swap. I was joking with Scott. I told him that Aaron and Brady both quit today, and that's why we're here, but that's not true. Aaron has a Sunday off, and Brady is actually down at the Coeur d'Alene site. And we have Mark with us today just to share, and Mark's the campus pastor at that site. So Brady and Mark kind of swapped places today. So you're hearing from Mark today is we're continuing the series called The Coming King. It's our Christmas series as we're looking at some of the foreshadowing that led up to Jesus' birth. So Mark's coming to us.
Well, hey guys, great to be with you today. As Matt said, my name's Mark, and glad to get this opportunity to just hang out with you guys. And here we are, man. We are now in the Christmas season over the next few weeks, and with the Christmas season, all kinds of things are coming, right? And we've got some plans with some family, or Christmas parties you're going to, or favorite movies, maybe. Some of those we're going to be watching, and there's kind of a season of traditions. And I know. For me, I have, not really over the top and all that stuff, I'm kind of simple and all that thing, but there is one tradition that I just don't give up on. It is getting a real Christmas tree. I head out to the woods or where these big tree places are and cut down my own tree, bring it into my house. And I know some of you like to do the fake Christmas tree thing. Like you pull out a closet and you put it up and you're done, right? And you just think you think you're smarter than everybody else. But for me, I like bringing that tree home and spilling the Christmas meals all over the floor and getting sap on everything. And you got to water every day. And then Christmas is over, you take it out, and more needles on the floor. And that's what makes Christmas special. And so you think I'm dumb, and maybe so. You might be right, but man, I'm going to stick with that tradition. But we have a lot of those at Christmas time. But what this season we're coming into is really all about. It's about the King. It is about the coming King of Jesus who was born. The birth of Jesus that we celebrate at Christmas. It's a time where we are reminded, encouraged because of what he's done and of the hope we have and freedom and life with him and the peace that he brings. And that story of Jesus being born was actually something that was foreshadowed and talked about in the Bible hundreds of years before it even happened. For hundreds and hundreds of years, the people had kind of waited and had struggled and wished and dreamed for a rescuer who would come, because for many, many years they had kind of been at the hands of evil kings who had oppressed them, and there was some pain and sorrow. And what they didn't realize at that time is they were really part of one grand story, and we are too. We're part of this story where we see that this coming King of Jesus was going to change everything. And so today we're going to take some time and look at just one of those stories in the Old Testament of the Bible about the Israelite people and how their story, when we look at it, we actually see part of our own story. And we see this King of Jesus who was the answer that everyone had waited for. So these Israelite people, this nation, they were a people in which God had a plan. He had a plan for them. They were to live out their faith in God. They were to put their trust in Him and live in relationship with Him. The whole nation was to do that, but they were to do it in a very strategic part of the world at that time. In the region that they lived, it was strategic because of the influence and the commerce connection with the rest of the world. There was many trade routes that would go through their region. And if they could live out their faith, if they could trust Him and be in relationship with Him, then they could influence the rest of the world. Because it wasn't just for them. God loved others. He wanted others to have their faith in Him. And so they could experience life and hope and the peace they could have in Him. However, at one particular point in the history of this nation, they actually ended up as slaves in another country, in the country of Egypt. And they were there for almost 400 years as slaves. And after some kind of crazy and kind of really amazing things that happened, which if you want to read about them, by the way, they're in the book of Exodus of the Bible. There's a whole long story about this. But they get to the point through some amazing things where they were released from slavery and they were given their freedom. And so Moses was the leader of these people. And God had an assignment for him. He said, listen, you're going to lead these people out of Egypt, out of slavery, back to the land that I have promised you. And as they leave, probably about 2 million people, they head out of Egypt and they are on their way. Now, they probably didn't really know everything that was ahead of them. They were probably excited about their freedom. We're not slaves anymore. We're out of here. But there was a lot of uncertainty that came with that. I mean, they had been slaves for 400 years. That's all they knew. They didn't know what life was like outside of Egypt. And what was out there, it was very unknown. And what about their family? Like, are they going to survive this journey back to this land? And who's going to give us food and water? And who's going to protect us out here? They were facing uncertainty as they left. Have you ever been there? The time when you were facing some uncertainty? Maybe even been in a season lately where there's some things in your life that feel very uncertain. Or maybe things that you worry about in terms of what might be ahead. And it's not just for you. You might even think about that for your family or if you have kids. And there's worries out there. Like, where's this really headed? How's this all going to turn out? What's out there? And maybe it's in your job situation where you thought things were going okay, but then some things change and that feels a little uncertain. Not sure where that's going to go. It can feel uncertain at times, and you don't always know where it's going to end up. So as these people, they leave the country of Egypt, they head out, and they end up setting up camp alongside the Red Sea. The sea's not red, it's just the name of it. I don't know why they named it that, but they're camped out along the sea, and it's this large body of water, and it's at this moment where Pharaoh, who's the king of Egypt, and all the Egyptians will realize, wait a minute, we just lost all of our free slave labor. Let's go get them. We want them back. And so they load the chariots, and they have all these weapons, and they have this army, and they go out and get them. So here's the Israelites camped out along the Red Sea, and in the distance they see the army coming after them. And their level of uncertainty goes from bad to worse. So let's pick up the story now. It's in Exodus chapter 14. And we're going to read a bunch of the story today. So we're starting in verse 10. It says, as Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, was it because there's no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. the worry that they had went from a level 4 to a level 10 pretty fast. The Egyptian army is pursuing them to overtake them, and then on the other side they have the Red Sea. They were stuck, they were trapped, and there's a few things going on here. One of the things we see is they start to complain about their situation. I mean, honestly, I probably would have too. I would have been like, okay, who is running the show? Like, this is not turning out how it's supposed to be. They blame someone else. They blame Moses and said, you're the one that brought us out here to die. What are you going to do about this? You guys know anybody like that? They complain a lot. They blame other people. And things don't go as planned. And their situations kind of unravel. You guys know anybody like that? Maybe that's you and I sometimes. Right? When we face some fear, or there's worry, there's uncertainty, there's some anxieties in life, it can make us feel kind of stuck. And we complain. Or we blame somebody else for our situation. Or I think if I'm in this kind of situation, I would have done those things, and then I would start to come up with my own ways to fix the problem. Like, we can get out of this mess. I've got some ideas, and they probably would have been stupid ideas. Like, maybe we could swim across the Red Sea. But it was huge, and everyone would have drowned. I probably would have been the first one to drown because I'm not a very good swimmer. I don't know what swimming lessons was like for you as a kid. For me, it didn't go very well. We had like these younger students, and they were too nice. They said, hey, let's go to the deep end, and we're going to kind of teach you how to float and swim. And I'm like, nope, I'm good right here below bubbles. And I did that for 2 weeks, and that was the end of it. I learned a little swimming later, but it didn't go very well. I would have drowned for sure, or maybe we think maybe we can fight them off. But they had all the weapons and the chariots next to the garden. We would have lost that. Or maybe I'm going to protest, impeach Moses, whatever. All these dumb ideas, but because that's sometimes what happens is when you feel stuck, you don't see a way out. You don't see a way forward. You got to figure this thing out. And how long is this going to take? Maybe you've experienced those kinds of things in your own life. Again, maybe it's in a relationship. Perhaps it was in the past, or maybe it's currently in a marriage relationship, or a dating relationship, or if you have kids. When you have kids, sometimes there's worries about what's happening and how they're going to turn out, and how's this going to go, or maybe, again, in the workplace, or in our finances. With inflation, things sometimes are crazy in the economy. How's this really going to go? It can feel uncertain. Sometimes it's with the pace of life we live, we feel stuck in that, or we have health issues, and we're like, I don't know how this is going to go. I mean, how's this really going to turn out? We don't feel like there's a way out or a way forward that's clear. We can feel stuck and not see our way out, and not see our way forward. But there's another reason that we are all stuck. Every one of us, all of us, we are stuck in our own sin. We all have it. We all struggle with it, right? There's no perfect people. We are all human. And sometimes there's sin in our life that we've struggled with for years. And what comes with that are times where we feel shame, we feel guilty, we have regrets about our past. We've ruined some relationships. Our sin also ruins our relationship with God. We're separated from Him. The Bible tells us, Romans 6, that even though God loves us, He hates sin. He hates it so much that there's a penalty. There's the wages of sin is death, it says. And so we're separated from God, and there's no way out. Now we try to come up with some ways out. We come up sometimes in our minds to justify things or come up with our own solution. Like there's maybe like we think about it as like a scale. I know I do bad stuff, but is there another side of the scale that if I do enough good things and I try hard, that maybe that stuff will kind of get overlooked? Or maybe we think there's like this grid, like I know I'm not the best person in the world, but I'm not the worst either. I think there's more evil people than me. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I just want to make the cut. Like I want to be above that line, that maybe I'll somehow be accepted, and that stuff doesn't matter as much. Or maybe we think maybe there's just some rules. Like there's 5 rules, and these are the rules I'm going to live by. And if I do these things, it doesn't really matter what else I do. But we kind kind of justify, we're trying to think through, that's the approach. This is how we're going to resolve sin issue. The reality is the Bible doesn't talk about any of those things. God says, listen, that is not how we're going to deal with the sin problem. The issue here is that sometimes we take our focus off of God, like those people did. We look at the circumstances around us and the problems in our life and the uncertainty. And when we think about our own sin and shame and the frustration sometimes we have with that, and we feel stuck. We feel stuck in situations of life. We can feel stuck in our own sin. And through all that we face, God wants us to look to Him. He wants us to trust Him. And sometimes those difficult parts of life, and even our own sin, keeps us from seeing Him and trusting in Him. This is what happened to those Israelite people. They only saw the problems, how they were trapped and how they were stuck. They didn't see the possibility of what God could do. Honestly, guys, if I'm in that situation, I probably would have too. Again, I'm trying to throw up these stupid plans to fix the problem and get our way out, rather than trusting God and looking to Him to provide a way out, looking to Him to provide a way forward. And I got my own stuff going on too, my own life. My own sin, and I've got issues. Some of those things I've struggled with for a long time. And just when I think I've made some progress, they sneak up on me again. And I sometimes think if I just try harder, if I'm just a better person and do some of those good things, maybe I'll outweigh the bad. I think those things too. But the reality for me, and for you as well, is there's no way out of our sin. You're stuck. And just when we think we've overcome one thing, here comes another thing right behind it. We're stuck in a life where there is trials, there is problems, and we have our own sin. But God provides a way out. God is the one who provides a way forward. He provides a way out and a way forward for us, just like He did for the Israelite people. Let's go back to the story. Exodus 14, verse 13 this time. Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you, you only need to be still." Before we talk about these Israelite people here, we need to hear those things, those words. In your fears, in our uncertainty, in the anxiety, the stuckness that we feel, in our own sin, He says, do not be afraid. God will bring you deliverance. God will fight for you. You just need to stop and be still. It's kind of like He's saying, listen, you have no idea what God can do. You have no idea what God is about to do. So just stop. Let God do the delivering. Be still. That means we need to stop striving to do all these things all by ourselves. We need to stop worrying and stop trying to fix every situation, fix people around us, stop trying to control situations and control the people around us. Just stop and be still. God is about to do something. Look to Him. Put your faith and your trust in Him to provide a way out, to provide a way forward. Just like He does for these Israelites. There's more to the story. We're going to pick it up in verse 21. Now, this is a little bit of a longer story I'm going to read, so pretend like this is like story time in the middle of our message. In verse 21, it says, Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove back the sea with a strong east wind, and it turned into dry land. The waters were divided. The Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. So as the Israelites crossed, they crossed to the other side. And then verse 26 says, Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were fleeing toward it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen. The entire army of Pharaoh that had followed him into the Israelites to the sea, not one of them survived. So after God saves the Israelites, they make it to the other side. Verse 31, when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord, and they put their trust in him and in Moses their servant. Now, when you hear that story, it sounds a little crazy, right? It's this one, and there's other stories in the Old Testament of the Bible that seem, really? That sounds crazy. Like did that stuff really happen? I know, the Bible's got some little stories in it, and this is maybe a message that how to just resolve all that for another day message, but for me, what helps me with that is, listen, it really comes down to what I believe about God. Because if I believe that God is all-powerful, and God can create a universe out of nothing, I think he can do this. But look at the story. It tells us something about God. It tells us that he is the way maker. He provided a way for the Israelites to be saved. And I'm sure these people, they were still a little scared. It still felt uncertain. They're walking through what used to be a sea on dry ground, and there's walls of water around them. I'm sure that was a little scary. It still felt uncertain. But sometimes trusting God and his way forward will still feel uncertain. Sometimes trusting God and his way forward, it will still feel uncertain. But God himself is not uncertain. He loves them. He loves you. He fights for you. And he provides a way out. He provides a way forward. We see in this story, and in this series we're in, is a story in the Old Testament that foreshadow Jesus, who is going to come into the world and to save us. The king of Egypt. He was oppressing those people. He kept them in slavery. It was hopeless. It was uncertain. It seemed like there was no way out. And then they end up, when they leave, they end up along a Red Sea, and then the Egyptian army is pursuing them. Again, it felt hopeless. And like there's no way out of this. But God worked through Moses to lead the people to freedom, to save them, and deliver them. The story foreshadows the coming King of Jesus, who would one day deliver all people and save all people from their sin. And whether we see it or not, like we are stuck. We are stuck in our sin. It separates us from God, and we cannot resolve that by ourselves. Like those Israelites stuck between the Red Sea and the army. They could resolve that by themselves. And we cannot get out of our sin mess by ourselves. We need a way forward. We need a king who would come and save us. And Jesus did come to give us a way out. Jesus is the way maker. He provides a way to be saved, to show us the way out, to show us the way forward, not only in this life, but into heaven. After God provides this way out for the Israelites through the Red Sea, what that story is really foreshadowing is about 1,500 years later, there's another story where the very same nation was oppressed again under another brutal empire. This time it was the Roman Empire, and Caesar was the ruler. And he said, we need more taxes, which meant more oppression and more poverty for the people. And so he said, hey, there's going to be a census taken, which is a way to count the people for tax purposes. And so everybody had to go to their own town to register. Everyone in the empire had to do this, thousands of people, including two people named Mary and Joseph. That story picks up 1,500 years later, and we read again, Luke chapter 2, verse 4. So Joseph went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child, whose name was Jesus. Mary and Joseph, and that whole nation, they were under extreme poverty and oppression. They were stuck under the brutal rule of this Roman Empire. And they, again, had no way out. It was uncertain. It was hopeless. They were stuck in political and economic surroundings, and the whole world was still stuck in their sin. And then we read on in verse 6. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. And she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wraps him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there's no room, no guest room available for them. In all of that, in all of the chaos, the promised coming King of Jesus was born. He came at the right time. They just needed to be still because Jesus was coming and he was going to fight for them. And he was going to bring about a life of peace and freedom and hope. Jesus came as a baby, born into the world, grew up and died on a cross to provide a way out, to provide payment for sin so our relationship with God can be restored again. What had been talked about over 700 times in the Old Testament before it even happened, Jesus makes a reality. We don't have to stay stuck in our sin. We can be forgiven. And that's how God provides a way out of sin. That's how he's going to deal with the sin problem. He can provide a way forward in this life and in all that you face. You know, maybe you're here and you think about today or even the season, and sometimes we get to a point where we're just kind of sick and tired of it. We're sick and tired of the sin that we keep doing. And sometimes it's just become a habit. We don't even realize we're doing it anymore. Or maybe there's sins from our past. Or there's been some shame, some regrets, and you're tired of it. Or maybe you're tired of living with daily anxiety and daily worries about some people and things in your life. Christmas, what we celebrate, is the King Jesus who has come. He came for you. And he is the way maker. He provides a way forward. He provides a way out. And he is fighting for you. You just need to be still and trust him. That he provides a way forward and a way out. We're going to respond a little bit and take some time to really just be still and just kind of continue to be quiet as it talks about the book of Exodus. I'm just going to invite you to close your eyes and bow your head and just take a moment just to be still. As Jesus is the way maker, tell Jesus that you trust him and what he did to forgive you of sin. In the quietness of your heart, tell him you trust him and what he did to forgive you of sin. And tell Jesus that whatever uncertainties you have, whatever your worries are, tell him what they are. Tell him right now what they are. And then tell him you're going to trust him to provide a way out and a way forward. Jesus, we come before you, and we just need to be still. Instead of striving and controlling and fixing. Just to be still and trust you with the uncertainties and the fear, the anxiety, and our sin. Thank you that you came to deliver us. And that we see in this story, we see our own story, that we're sometimes stuck and we don't always see the way out. We do not always see the way forward. That's why we need you to be our way maker. You make a way for us. Thank you for that. Thank you for what you give us. Thank you for going to the cross. Jesus, at Christmas, we celebrate your birth, which led to your death and your resurrection that gives us a way out. Help us to be still, because we know you're fighting for us. Thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen.
Why don't you stand with us as we respond? Let's just ask God to be that way maker. Let's look to him for his promises. Let's declare that that's who we want him to be in our life. Just open ourselves up to him. And continue to move forward. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you.
Miracle worker, promise king, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are.
today, celebrating Christmas, and us for this season.